Hi everybody, I'm Mike, and welcome to my shop. Well, it's time for another shop update. Wasn't planning on doing these on a regular basis, which I guess it's been several months, so this really isn't a regular basis, but I think it's time to do one, finally getting back on track. The weather was just horrible here. I mean, it's funny for me to say that. I feel bad whenever I say the weather was horrible. I live in California. When is the weather ever horrible? But you know, it starts to barely sprinkle, of course. Everyone just goes crazy around here. Storm watch. It's always storm watch. But I want to send out my best wishes to the severe weather that I'm seeing going on in like Texas and Missouri, even in Colorado with their snow and stuff, and Kansas. So, I hope everybody's doing well. And so I decided it's time to do a little shop update. Finally trying to get things back together. I don't like to call this a shop anymore. This has pretty much become a storage unit since the weather we had earlier this year. The good that comes out of something negative is that it's now forcing me to finish. I have a lot of these partial projects, I call them, so I'm going to probably put a few videos out of finishing my partial projects. And I figured what I would do today is give you guys a little sneak peek on what you might expect to see, since now that weather is getting warmer now, and definitely barbecue season, and that's one of my other huge passions, and I have 3 barbecue projects in process. So let's switch things around and let me give you a little bit of a project tour. Not really a shop tour, but maybe a little bit of a project tour. Okay, so partial project number 1 is, of course, UD's Ugly Drum Smoker I started working on, and it's mostly complete. All I really had to do is I have some custom hinges I'm going to put on it. I need to put a smokestack, and I'm going to have a type of a clamping mechanism on the top. Probably going to have to work this lid a little bit because there are some issues with that. But there she sits so far. Of course, she was in a little bit better shape, but when it was outside, it did get enough moisture, and it's rusted a little bit. But I'll probably do this one next because it really is pretty easy, even though I made a stupid mistake. Not really stupid, but it's like you think you're doing something to be helpful and it ends up not being. And you can see here, it's always most common to have these pipes. Well, I happen to have these giant washers, and I made a little bracket here just to keep so that this is kind of a little more secure. Well, the problem with that is when I go to put on my ball valve, the handle hits here, and because normally you would just move it out, twist it on, and pull it back. So now I'm going to have to extend and out here, come at an angle, do some stuff I wasn't planning on doing. So kind of forced the change of the design. And another one that I'm pretty proud of, I would rather do this one next, but it's going to require more customization. I call this my ultimate tailgater. Even custom made, the legs, which are all nice and rusted now. This thing, oh God. Yeah, my ultimate tailgater. This one I really want to get finished because I would actually bring this everywhere with me. It's a super old air tank that I was originally going to make a little air compressor out of. I have a little teeny Campbell Hausfeld air compressor, and I was going to use this as the tank for it, and basically have my own air compressor. But one thing I noticed is it's kind of funny. It's like they say with a sculptor. Not that I'm some kind of artist, but like a true sculptor, he gets the block of rock. He doesn't decide to make something and then he just makes it out of the rock. As they would say, the rock kind of speaks to him. He looks at it, that would look good as this shape, whatever. Well, what happened when I had this, and it was still in this air tank state, I'm looking at it, and I see this part, and I'm like, boy, that looks just like the smokestack of a barbecue. And, gears in my head started turning, and I was noticing on this plaque right here that it was manufactured in 1968, and I'm like, hey, that's the year I was born. So my friend who would give it to me, I asked him, hey, you mind if I turn that into just because I didn't want him to be offended. Well, so I cut it up, I made some custom hinges, it'll open, and it's some super thick steel too. It's like 1/8 of an inch. I don't think it's quite 1/8 of an inch, but it's heavy duty, so that should be a fun project. And I have this frame over here I'm working on, which is just, I have an old smoker with a side firebox and everything, and it's super old, very cheap and expensive, but the metal framing over all these 20 plus years of having that thing, I think it's 20 years old, it's just starting to get so ripped and fall apart, so I've got basically a new frame for that. And that's it for the partial projects as far as barbecue. So I hope you liked those little project previews. As you may have noticed, they're metal based, and that's about the one thing I do have some formal training in is general welding and fabrication and blacksmithing. So probably won't see too much of that until I ever make a what do you call that furnace, the forge. I make my own little forge. That is something I really enjoyed when I took classes in that. It's one of those lost arts, but man, it's just so much fun the way you can manipulate steel like that. I have an update video for my box jig. I don't know if you've seen that video where I built the Ed Styles box joint jig. Well, I'm going to be making some modifications that make it dummy proof, since I don't know why I was having such a hard time, and it was just simple counting. I do have this, you probably didn't really notice it because it's kind of covered in all sorts of stuff, it's just a restoration of an old desk. And even though the desk is really old, it pretty much has a zero value. I can vouch that it's a minimum of 50 years old because it was my grandfather's desk. It could be even 6 years old, but in any case, it clearly is an assembly line piece. Like I had it upside down in my truck so that it took the strain off of the legs. It was on its top. Well, then I got to see underneath it, and you can see how some of the joinery is, and it actually has like staples, like those giant staples like I've seen in the rafters of the attic and things like that. I'm like, wow, this is not exactly high-end construction, yet that thing's solid as a rock, and to me it kind of goes as a testament to how even back in the day, assembly line work or production line work, there was still, people were taking pride, it was still craftsmanship quality as far as how things were put together, even though they might not have been using what you would use today in the hardware, but again, that thing is still solid, even for the abuse it was received from its previous owner. So the top's a little bad, so I'm not 100% sure because I haven't yet determined if that's solid wood on the top or plywood. And like I said, we had appraised one time and it really wasn't worth anything. So if I change something, like I'm gonna fix a few things on there and maybe change a couple things, but so it'll still have its general look. Put a nice stain on it, and by that time I have a feeling one of my family members is gonna want it back since I don't really have any use for it. So we got that. And I can't think of anything of noteworthiness or anything that I'd want to reveal, because then I'm being committing myself to completing what I tell you. So I think with that, we'll leave you now, and thanks for sticking around, and see you in the next video. You take care.